All right, then we will move on to our program. We're very proud to have with us today Diana Michelle Hausam. She earned a degree in fine art with an emphasis in photography and a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from the University of Arkansas. Diana is the recipient of the Arkansas Committee of the National Museum of Women in the Arts 2009 Annual Bibba Pruitt Scholarship. She teaches photography and Photoshop at Northwest Technical Institute, and she has operated a portrait studio, Diana Michelle Photography, for the past 6 years. She displays her fine art at local and regional galleries and museums. And Diana directed the documentary short Westland about the reclusive artist Tim West. That documentary is a beautiful, beautiful piece of work. It aired on AETN and was part of the 2014 PBS Online Film Festival. She is here today to talk to us about a very historic spot in Benton County, the Gypsy Camp. So please join me in welcoming Diana Michelle.
So these first few images were taken with this 4x5 film camera right here. And you'll notice by the size of it as well that it's 4 by 5 inches, which is not a normal size that you would normally see with pictures. Okay, so this is the Illinois River. And from what Bob had told me, and we have Bob Coe with us on the front row, he is family for the people that started the Gypsy Camp, and he will be answering any questions at the end of this program. So don't ask me a lot of history. We have Bob Coe here for that. Most of what I do is pictures, and I know a little bit of the history. So luckily we have Bob here with us today. So this was the Illinois River here. And from what I understand, when they dammed up Lake Francis, this used to be a lake, and they would boat and ski and take their girls out on this lake. But now it's a river. Still just as beautiful, if you ask me. So this is looking at the edge of the property up the Illinois River there off Highway 59. So this right here, I believe this was the Arts and Crafts Center. And then this is a nice little rock wall that leads all the way to that building there. I was really intrigued with this composition here, mostly because of this walkway and this rock wall. I just thought it was amazingly beautiful. Here's a more of a closer up picture of that building right there. And when I saw Bob back in '09, he was actually in there working on some woodwork. So he had a lot of projects going on in there. This is a picture of just the grounds. Right back in this area is actually the river, which is right behind all this. And I like to take pictures of buildings, but also a lot of the pictures that I take, it doesn't really matter where it is. It doesn't really tell you where it is. I'm looking for old relics. I'm looking for old yard art, which I have another picture of this that I took 5 years later that you will see. What draws me to these places is the history, but mostly the buildings, and I really like buildings that are old, and also old farm equipment and stuff like that. Here's another picture I took with the 4x5. And here's a side view of that picture. And if you look right here in this area, I'll have a close-up of this later on in this slideshow, but it has pictures of the girls when they were in camp there. The camp was open until 1978, but the buildings and everything else are still there, which is what brought me there. Here's a close-up of one of the buildings, and there's beds, and I believe this upstairs is there. There's another arts and crafts area up there. Unfortunately, a lot of the buildings, some of the stairs and such aren't in good shape, and they're hard to get into some of the buildings. But this one is just a close-up of one of the larger buildings on the area, and I just love the composition and the way all the different squares we have with all the windows and the shape of the building. So I tried to get a nice close-up of that shot. I saw this wonderful bell on his property, but I was focusing on the bell with having the background as our buildings. And I just love all the historic little things that are all over his property there. So this is the last one that I shot with the 4x5. I noticed that these canoes are gone now, but they floated away. Literally? Wow. So back in '09, these canoes were still there. So I imagine we had quite a flood or something come along and wash them away. So really really for me, it's about composition, framing, lighting. It's all the elements there about photography. So that's what drew me to this particular photograph. And it tells history there too. These girls used to float in these canoes, and they looking like they're really good shape. Recently I went back to take pictures, and I just kind of wanted to show you like a layout of the land first so you can kind of understand where the buildings are situated. It was a rainy day, so I had really good, nice saturated colors, and I didn't have to worry about any problems with lighting. But here's the building that I showed you earlier. One of the buildings where the girls would stay is right here on the left. Here's the fire pit. The girls would gather around there. Another more modern picture of that particular building, and a more of a close-up of this building. This building in the background, the stairs are pretty much gone. Can't really get into that building. But this one's pretty accessible. There's a bunch of beds and stuff downstairs for the girls there. Here's a picture of the other large building on the right. See, that building that we just saw was on the left. This is directly across from the field there. This is the one that has the upstairs with the open area for arts and crafts. Downstairs there's beds down here, multiple beds for the girls that went to the Gypsy Camp. Another shot of this stone arch, which I just think is so incredibly beautiful to me. This will probably always be there. And that's what I really like about some of the things about the Gypsy Camp, is that their staying power and the fact that these buildings are still there. This started off as an artist colony in 1921, and it's amazing how well intact the building and all of the structures on the property are still in really good shape. So this is another view as well. Right directly behind this building is the one that's really hard to get to because of the stair issue, but also kind of like a dormitory for the girls. This one as well. Here's a stairway that goes in between two of the buildings there. When I met Bob back in '09, he was actually staying in this house. But this building is obviously extremely historic. If you look behind the building and all the buildings there at the Gypsy Camp, right behind them is this beautiful bluff line, which is just incredible. It kind of shields the whole area. So this little house, really hard to get a picture of because it's overgrown quite a bit. But to the left of all of the buildings and up a little hill is this house. And I believe Bob said that your father lived there. And if you there's like a little path. You can't really see it in this picture, but it leads right up there to it. And I've got some close-up pictures of this building as well. So here's a close-up of that building. And if you look right up here in the top left area of this photograph, it says COE Co. That's Bob's last name, the family name. So I thought that was really neat that was still there. And this staircase is just amazingly beautiful. This is right outside of that same building. And I do believe this building probably lasts longer than all the rest of them because there's a lot of stone to it. So it's actually pretty good shape. This was right outside of that building as well. And I just love this composition and this bench. Well, I mean, we don't even know how old this is, but it's absolutely gorgeous. And you can see just how overgrown that area is. I plan on taking some more pictures in the wintertime when it's not so overgrown, so you can see more of the buildings. And I'm the type of person that'll go back every season to take pictures of the same thing just because it looks incredibly different throughout the seasons. So here's like just one little corner of the building. And you see there most of them have the screened-in windows there. And you can see a lot of these buildings right here built on these stilts here. And most of them have stairs leading to them, and the stairs are what's pretty much going by the wayside first. The buildings seem to be in really good condition. It's the stairs that mostly have an issue at the Gypsy Camp. Buildings look great. The accessibility is the issue more than anything else. So I saw this outside of one of the buildings, and this is, I like to document the Gypsy Camp, but a lot of the pictures that I take, you can't really tell where I took them. This could have been taken anywhere. It's more of just composition and drawing your eye through the photograph. It's a technical thing. But I'm always drawn to these kind of things that make you make your eye just go right through that picture, like you walk right through it. So this was on the outside of one of the dorms that the girls stayed in. I love decay, and I love the way buildings fall over time. I know it's kind of a sad thing in a way, but it's also very much of a beautiful thing. And so it's things like this that I like to photograph on a regular basis. These pictures will actually be on my website as well if you guys want to look at those anymore. So this is just one of the buildings with one of the screens that have kind of rotted over time. And here's a close-up of the side of that building that have the pictures of the girls from the Gypsy Camp over the years. Looks like it's got a little water damage, but I think that kind of adds to the quality of the image here. I especially like this one. Okay, you saw that building earlier, but here it is with all the girls in front of it. It's just, these pictures just truly amaze me. They really do. And Bob told me that a photographer from Tulsa would come down regularly and take pictures in the summer, so he has excellent documentation of the Gypsy Camp. Tons of pictures. It's amazing how well this place was documented when it was running as a camp for girls. You see them horseback riding, playing music, in the boats, and here's the fire pit right there. There's the river right there behind them. Horseback riding, boating. I believe he said they also had dance classes, archery, you name it, they did it. One of the buildings where the girls stayed, this was right in the front door. I just thought that was absolutely amazingly beautiful. This is kind of stuff I photograph. No, it doesn't say Gypsy Camp, but it's just something that the things that I look for, which is what drew me to the Gypsy Camp, was the old buildings. I knew I wanted to photograph the old buildings, the old relics. This is just an example of that. Nice little Dutch oven. You can still use that thing right there. This is what I really enjoy. The girls got to leave their mark at the Gypsy Camp. And through all the buildings, you'll see their names and the years that they were there. And I believe we have one for Alice Walton, but I couldn't find it where she was. She had stayed there as well. There's a lot of history here, and it was really cool that they let the girls leave a little piece of themselves behind there. So all the buildings, most of the buildings, especially the ones the girls stayed in, you'll see this in there. I just thought this was neat, the way they would bring water to the buildings. Amazingly beautiful. I saw this sign, and I just had to photograph it. Rocks are forever, don't ever move them. So it's stuff like this that I'm like, oh yes, this is why I came here today, because I'm looking for stuff like this. I want to find something interesting that I can leave with. And I feel real happy about the set of photographs that I have, but when I see something like this, I'm like, there's my shot of the day. So I do take pictures of things that are unconventional and a little bit strange. So that's what I'm looking for all the time. So I've got one coming up. I'm just kind of warning you. So I take pictures of yard art as well. So you'll see that. So now and luckily I went right after it rained really good. Okay, because that river's up a lot more than it usually is. It looks like you could boat on it right now, the shape that it was in. This was just literally last weekend. Every time, even when I was out there 5 years ago, I don't know if it's the same little guy, but he was out there this time as well. He came all the way across the river to greet me, which I thought that was really neat. You can tell he got quite a bit of rain there before I got there. In fact, it was raining this day. I had somebody holding an umbrella over my camera and over my head the whole time. Another one of the themes that I do is, and this is pretty recent, because I'm always looking for new things to photograph, and I'm like, Then I'll think of something like, why didn't I think of that before? That's everywhere. Everybody has yard art. Not everybody, but most everybody. So I'm looking for vintage yard art, old yard art, with pieces missing, ears missing, and so forth. So that being said, I found this on Bob's property, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. This is a completely dismembered statue. There's the little, I don't know if he's an angel or what, but he's pouring water. There's his part of his arms there. So this is what I do, okay, just so you know. So when I saw this on Bob's property, I was completely delighted. I was like, how did I miss this 5 years ago? So this is really what I do, and this is what I always look for. I was extremely pleased when I saw this. And just the railings on this property, of course, they'll stay there a long time, and they just amaze me. So, and the lighting and the textures here was just, it screamed black and white. But this was at one of the houses along the stairwell, and it's just still in just amazing shape. So I found this in Bob's house when we were there. I was there last Saturday, and I took a picture of it. They must have sent this for Bob for his 91st birthday a couple of years ago. And he still is in touch with some of the campers, which is neat. Some of the girls from Dallas that used to camp there would come up every summer and have a little get-together. But I just love this picture because it shows that building, one of the main buildings, in use as opposed to what it looks like now. But you see the building doesn't look much different. I mean, it's the same building. It's just missing some stairs now. A lot of these buildings are really close to being completely restored very easily. But I believe the girls, the age range for it was from 7 to 17. So we had lots of young girls and older girls there together. Here's a close-up, and it kind of shows the Gypsy Camp back in the day. Now, just because it's called the Gypsy Camp doesn't mean it's a Gypsy Camp. The girls would dress up on the last day of camp and have a little ceremony around the fire. But, I mean, it was a girls' camp. Looks like there was some good fishing back in the day there. And it looks like there was always ducks in the pond. I don't know how long those ducks live, but that one that's been down there. I've been seeing him for 5 years now. So here's somebody boating right there on that river there that I showed you. Of course, it was more of a lake before they dammed up Lake Francis. Tennis, fishing, horseback riding, and look at that boat. So this is behind the property. This is where the bluff line lies behind the whole property of Gypsy Camp. And then you see there's a lot of wood and kind of like a storage. Because if you look around to the top left part of this photograph, you'll see the overhang there, and it covers all of this. It's amazing how far that goes back. So the bluff line, to me, is just a really cool nature thing that he's got going on there. A lot of people don't know about it, but it is behind all of the buildings there. This is the pool. And of course, the water's green, which I love. I think it's absolutely gorgeous, just the way it is right now. Now, those were my pictures, and we do have Bob Coe here with us to talk a little bit about the Gypsy Camp, or if anybody has any questions about the Gypsy Camp. I talk about the Gypsy Camp to people my age and younger, and they're like, what is that, a camp for gypsies? I don't, what? That sounds interesting. They've never heard of it before, okay? So I'm trying to keep the memory alive, but there's also people that do more mainstream documentaries and so forth about buildings and places that you already heard of. So my goal is to record and document through photography and through video the buildings and historic structures that a lot of people don't know about while they're still here. I'm hoping the Gypsy Camp will stay around for a long time, but there's a lot of buildings that are gone, and there's a lot of historic places that have been destroyed. And so my goal is to get out there and get those pictures and at least document them before they're gone. How the history of the name of the Gypsy Camp.
Well,
Where did the name come from?
my grandmother was a fine artist, and she was the art director of the University of Tulsa. And my grandfather married her after his first wife, second wife died, and she wanted a gypsy camp because she traveled abroad a lot, and so that's where it got its name. the Gypsy Camp. Yes, ma'am.
Were you a little boy growing up there?
Yes, ma'am.
What was that like for a little boy to have all these girls?
It wasn't fun, no. Yeah, they had to. I was a pain around there. Yeah. Well, I didn't get up. They wouldn't let me come up there when I was 16.
Your grandparents started the camp.
Yes, ma'am.
And did your parents take it over at some point?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you took it over?
Been in the family since 1921,
Wow.
and I took it over in '55. Me and my wife and I took it over in '55, and she passed away about 10 years ago. And she was beautiful. Everybody loved her.
I have a question about on the boards where the girls put their names. I saw things that said Red Queen and Orange Queen.
There was two clans, the Reds and the Oranges, and they competed with each other.
Oh, okay.
And then at the banquet at the end of camp, well, they had queens and princesses and all, and they received the awards of the clan that had made the most points during camp.
How did you advertise about the camp? How did the word get out that this camp was available?
We put out a nice catalog every year, and we traveled around from city to city and showed colored slides of the camp. And some of the girls that came, their parents came to camp, and they knew all about it. And one family, her dad brought her up, and he looked it over, and he said, "My daughter won't stay there a week. She'll be called. They'll want to come home." And she was a camper for 6 years. Well, the old Gypsy Camp was a wonderful place.